Hello and welcome to 2 plus 2 equals cabbage. In this video, we'll be covering how to create a service principal in Azure that we can use to publish projects with Terraform. We'll cover things like gathering the info we need from Azure, creating an app registration and assigning a role to the app registration, and finally creating a sample terraform.tfrs file to get us ready to start deploying projects to Azure with Terraform. All right, let's figure it out together. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off with the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. Once logged into there, there's a few things that we'll need to gather, and something to keep in mind about the Azure portal is you can often find things in multiple locations. So I'll try to point out along the way where things might be visible in a couple different locations. So the first thing that we're going to obtain is our tenant ID, and your tenant ID comes from the Microsoft Entra ID portion of Azure, and it's located right here in the middle of the screen here after we've entered the Microsoft Entra ID blade. So we're just going to copy that to our clipboard, and I've got a text file that I'm just saving these things in. And once we have the tenant ID, we can go back to home and we'll go right into the subscription. If your subscription doesn't show up in your list of recent sources, you can grab it by going into the subscriptions blade here. And if that icon doesn't show up here, you can always use the search to find pretty much anything in here. And that's true of anything you'll need to find. So we'll go to subscriptions. And I've only got the one. And as we can see here, we've got the subscription ID here. So we can grab it right there while we're looking at it. As we click into the subscription, we'll also see the subscription ID is here also. So we can grab it there, copy to the clipboard. Very simple. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and create an app registration. So back on the Home tab, we're going to see if we've got app registrations up here. Yep, we do. If we didn't, we'd search for it, but we'll go into app registrations. And all we need to do here is create a new registration. And we can call this anything we want. Naming within app registrations, enterprise apps, and things like that within Azure generally are pretty free form. Things don't generally reference things by name. They use the IDs instead, which don't change. So in this case, we'll call this one Terraform test. And we don't need to change anything else here on this page. We'll just click register. And once we've registered it, we want to grab the application client ID. We'll use that in our Terraform configuration. And another thing to note, that tenant ID is also here again. So if we wanted to grab it, if we didn't grab it earlier, we can grab it right from there. But we have what we need from this page. The next thing we need to do is create a secret. So we'll go over here to the certificates and secrets, and we'll just click new client secret. And again, naming here is totally up to you. And then depending on what your use case is, obviously we're doing this in a lab environment, so we don't really care about the duration of the certificate, but if you're doing it in production, you may have requirements to set it longer. In this case, we'll just choose 90 days and we'll click add. And now one thing to observe here is this secret value. This is the key piece that we need to copy off. We want to copy this to the clipboard, and just note that once you click off this page, that secret value is no longer visible to you. So you need to get it now, or you won't be able to get it again, and you'd have to recreate it. Another thing I like to note generally is the expiration date. We wouldn't want to have an application or access control stop working because it expired, so I like to take note of those expiration dates. But once we've gotten the information we needed from there, we're pretty well finished there. So we can go back to the Home tab, And we'll go back to our subscription. And then we need to assign the necessary role so that Terraform can deploy projects into Azure. So we'll go to Access Control IAM right here. And once we're in there, we're just going to go up to the Add and Add Role Assignment. And we're looking for privileged administrator roles because we need to assign the contributor role to our app. And then once we've selected contributor, we can go over to members and we'll hit select members to search for our new app that we created. And it's called Terraform Test. And click select. Then we hit next and review and assign. And once that's done, that's all we need to do here. So next we'll flip over and we'll look at a sample terraform.tf vars file, and we'll fill that out with the new information, and we'll move on from there. So here we've got a sample terraform.tf vars file. This actually comes from a template that's in the GitHub for some of the projects that we'll be doing. And we're just going to take this and enter in some of the information that we gathered. Starting at the top, we're going to grab the subscription ID that we copied off. And we're just going to populate it right in here, making sure to keep it within the quotes. And then the client ID, we'll put that in here. And just a note, if you accidentally copy it over and you eliminate one of the quotes, your comments, you can tell that the comments aren't really working the way they should. So that's a good indicator that you might have made a mistake and accidentally overwritten one of the quotes. Client secret is the next thing that we'll put in. We'll paste that. Oops. I want to make sure we also get rid of all the content. We'll paste that in there. And finally, the tenant ID. And that's the last thing there. And just for readability, I'm going to make an adjustment here so we can see everything clearly. So now we see we've added the 4 things that are critical for Terraform to be able to deploy to Azure. We've got the subscription ID, the client secret, and the tenant ID. And that's all we need for now. The other items are environment specific, and we'll cover those in later videos when we're talking about actually publishing to Terraform. But that was all pretty painless, and we're ready to go as far as being able to connect to Azure with an account specifically for Terraform. So stay tuned for the other videos coming up where we'll talk about actually deploying something. Thanks for visiting 2 + 2 = Cabbage. If you found this video useful, like and subscribe to show me there are people out there who would like to see more of this content.